joining us. All right, good morning. We are about to get started here in our Summer EBT webinar. Thank you for joining. My name is Rachel Cahill. I am a visiting fellow with the Center for Community Solutions. I am so thrilled to have this amazing group of people together to talk about our Sunbucks program in Ohio. We are grateful to parents we have here. We have a school superintendent. We have my awesome research colleagues. And I know many of you who are attending are also a big part of the Summer EBT ecosystem in Ohio. So we appreciate you for the work you do in the field to spread the word, and I hope you can learn something today about the program and what we're doing to enhance it for the future. So I am going to be your cruise ship director for this adventure, and I want to start by introducing my amazing research colleagues. So this is a summary of some research we've been doing since really last summer, and this was our team. So I'm Rachel Cahill, as I said, a visiting fellow with the Center for Community Solutions. I've been a longtime SNAP and anti-hunger advocate in Ohio. We also have Sophia Charlot, who's a research analyst on my team. Sophia has been working with me for a couple of years. She's also a grad student in public health and is just really was the glue that kept this project together. So thank you, Sophia, for being here. We have Kyle Thompson, who is a policy associate with the Center for Community Solution. He was our in-house research lead with the Center for Community Solutions. So thank you, Kyle. And we have Catherine Unger, who is a consultant and longtime anti-hunger advocate who's really focused on school meals and connections to the larger school nutrition environment. So she was a really excellent resource for this project and had some amazing connections, including down in Chesapeake Union, who we're going to hear from next. So before we introduce the rest of our speakers, I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to do today. So first of all, you hopefully saw in the chat that we will have this video recorded, the slides will be available, all of those things that people usually ask at the beginning of the webinar. And I'm very grateful to Ebony from the Center for Community Solutions, who is our tech support today. So if you have questions, if you have audio issues, or you need troubleshooting help, please mention that to Ebony. You can put in a question. And we are accepting Q&A a little bit later. So we'll go through questions that anybody has. You can use the question and answer box. But this is our rundown of what we're hoping to go over today. So we're going to have some opening remarks in just a minute from Doug Hale, a superintendent at Chesapeake Union School District. We're going to go over a little bit of a background on the Summer EBT or Sunbucks program, how it worked in Ohio in 2024, and will continue to operate in Ohio. And then we'll tell you a little bit about our research that we did. So we're going to talk about both the program analysis, where we kind of looked at the big picture of the program, as well as what the real substance of our research was, which was talking to parents and what their experiences were with the Summer EBT program. So we are, again, really grateful to have representatives of each of the 3 school districts we looked at on our panel today. And then we will talk about recommendations. So parents had a lot of great things to say about this program and also some recommendations about how we can strengthen it in the future. So we'll end there. And then we will take everybody's questions. Sound like a good plan? All right. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug to give us some opening remarks.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Doug Hale, the superintendent at Chesapeake Executive Village in the southern region of Ohio. From my office, I can step outside and see the bridge that connects us to Huntington, West Virginia, and a 10-minute short drive to the south. I could be in Ashland, Kentucky, which truly puts us in the tri-state area of Ohio. Our district's worked hard to provide good nutritional meals to our students. This is the first year that we've qualified for free and reduced lunch, free lunches and breakfasts for all of our kids. And even though that we qualify for that CEP program, we still have a lot of district costs involved in our food service, which, we're committed that this is something that all of our kids need, not just 1 or 2 or half of them, all of them. So it's been a really good process for our community and our families and our kids this year. Yesterday was our 14th weather-related closing. So as I sit in the superintendent's seat, along with the other superintendents in Lawrence County, is that, we're always deciding, hey, can we get in? If we don't get in, what about the food the nutritional meals that our kids are missing. So it really weighs on us about that. And, and then with that, you'd be surprised how many children depend on school meals for their nutritional needs, is why I worry about our kids during the summer. I was very happy to learn that Ohio opted in a summer EBT or Sunbucks program to try to address the food gap over summer months. It allows our students and families to get the meals they need when we're not in session. And this is something that I would advocate for each day, 24/7, something that needs to be sustained and active. And thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much, Doug. Your leadership in your part of the state and really statewide is really inspiring, and I hope it inspires more and more school officials to speak up and talk about this program. So thank you for being here and for being part of this research project. I think you were not just a yes, but like a heck yes. We are in. We will definitely connect you to parents. We would love to be part of it. Had a great conversation with your tech folks, your IT lead who helped make this happen. So just grateful to all the effort that you personally and your team has put in to making this a successful program.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so now we are going to get into just a little bit of some grounding to make sure everybody on the webinar has the same understanding of how this program works and why we're so excited to have something to celebrate today and talk about. So let me just give you a bit of background. For starters, even though we talk about the Summer EBT or Sunbucks program being a new permanent program in Ohio in 2024, it actually has roots that go back to about 2010. So the Summer Electronic Benefit Transfer for Children demonstration was a precursor to this program, and it was authorized by Congress all the way back in 2010, and it operated for about a decade. And there was very robust research on this. It was only in a couple of states and in a couple of native nations, but it was very heavily studied to understand whether it did what Doug just mentioned, whether it filled that nutrition gap that happens in the summer for children, and whether it improved their health, whether it reduced severe food insecurity was really what the goal of the demonstration project was. And the program was universally considered successful at meeting that mission. So at that time of the demonstration, students were getting a $60 per month per child benefit in the summer, and it reduced this category of severe food insecurity by about a third. So it was considered hugely successful. So that was really the precursor to then what happened in the pandemic. So many of you remember pandemic EBT. So 2020 happens, schools close, families go home, and now, just as Doug was saying, they don't have those school meals supplementing their budget, supplementing that family's food environment. And so Congress acted very quickly to create the pandemic EBT program. We had that program in place from 2020 until 2023, and we've written a lot about it. A lot of you all were partners for that work. I'm really proud of what that program was. So we don't have time to spend on what pandemic EBT did and the lessons learned from it. But out of that, Congress decided this was such a great program. It was rolled out nationwide in a very short amount of time. And they said, let's make this program permanent post-pandemic. So at the end of 2022, we got authorization for the first new child nutrition program in really 50 years, a new permanent program. So it was a huge deal. And that is what we now call Sunbucks. So that was your lightning speed history lesson on how we got here. But if you're interested in the background research, all of the studies that have been done up to this point to learn more about its nutritional impact for children and why it matters so much, we have all of that for you. All right, so how did the program work in Ohio? So this new program, as I mentioned, the original demonstration project was at a higher amount, and summer pandemic EBT benefits were also a higher amount. So it is worth noting that the permanent program started at $40 per month per child. So it was a $120 benefit for the summer. So lower than what families were receiving during pandemic EBT. So that is worth acknowledging, because you'll see one of the recommendations from our parents was that we need that benefit to be a bit higher, but it was better than nothing, and we were happy to have it. So last summer, $120 per child. The benefits of summer EBT are 100% federally funded. So our state is paying for half of the administrative costs, but they are not paying for the cost of the benefit. So it is it's a net benefit for our state, for our grocers. certainly for our families and for our food ecosystem. I mentioned the state covers some administrative costs, so we want to make sure that that budget is protected going forward. And from my perspective, and you'll probably hear this from the parents too, one of the best things about the program is that it reduces bureaucracy by automatically connecting eligible families to it in most instances. So families that are already known to be eligible for free or reduced price school meals, families who are already connected to SNAP, to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and families who are already connected to Medicaid for their children were also largely connected to Sunbucks automatically. So if you think about the amount of government resources that go towards processing applications and paperwork back and forth and the headache that that is for families, most of that was eliminated in this program because we already know who gets free school meals, right? And that is the group we're trying to serve. So this is a few things to just know about if you aren't familiar with sort of how many kids are in Ohio and how many kids were reached by this program. We wanted to kind of ground a little bit of that for you here. So there are about, in the last school year, because remember we're talking about the 2023-2024 school year, there are about 1.9 million school children in Ohio, preschool through grade 12. And about 933,000 of those participated in the National School Lunch Program. So this is, a wide-reaching program. It's a super important program to be talking about. And just like Doug, you'll hear from school districts across our state what an important program that is for the food environment. Now, traditional summer meals programs only reach about 10% of children that qualify for free or reduced price lunches. So that's about, if we were to extrapolate, that's about 94,000 Ohio children. And that's because traditional summer meal sites, while very important, they're at a rec center or at a YMCA or some schools run summer nutrition programs. They're very important. They're often associated with programming, summertime programming that's going on. But because the reach is so small, parents have to travel to those sites during the workday. They just don't get the take up. So that means that, roughly 90% of the kids who are getting school meals during the year are not getting those traditional summer meals that come through that traditional program. So the incredible thing about the Summer EBT Sunbucks program is that it reached 1.2 million children in Ohio in 2024, which exceeded expectations. So it's reaching more than half of the school children in Ohio, if you look at it that way. So the reach is really incredible. All right, so if you have, we're going to save the questions to the end, but if you have any questions about Summer EBT or Sunbucks, how it works, please enter them to the chat and we'll try to tackle those a little bit later. The next thing that we want to turn to is just talking about the research project itself. So we just published earlier this week this report. It's called the Snapshot of Parent Experiences from 3 school districts in Ohio. And we are really happy that it's out into the world. We've been working on it for a long time. And so we, as I mentioned, we really wanted to understand the program implementation more deeply. And we really wanted to talk to families who were connected to the program to get that feel for it. Because just saying it reached 1.2 million children is awesome. But what did that really mean, right? How did that get food into the fridges of working families across Ohio? That was really the goal of this research. And then from all those interviews and conversations and data analysis, we compiled this report, and so it's there for you to read on the Center for Community Solutions website. All right, so I'm going to turn it now to my colleague Kyle to just give you a little bit of a snapshot on our research methods and how we went about putting together this study.
Thank you very much, Rachel. If you could please advance the slide, that'd be helpful. Thank you very much. We submitted public data requests to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce and the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. And from that, this helped yield helpful information and operating plans, which assisted us greatly in our work. Information collected allowed the study team to construct a timeline that you see here of plan and actual implementation of the program. Records requests and conversations with administrators also yielded quantitative data on program outcome. Could you please advance the slide? We talk about research recruitment. We're looking at targeted school districts that we selected as recruitment sites based on the unique characteristics to get diverse responses. We chose Chesapeake Union, Cleveland Heights, University Heights, and Painesville. The selected school districts differed in size, student demographics, and school food policy to represent some of the many ways that summer EBT played out in Ohio. And so the study team enlisted various school district leaders, including superintendents, school board members, family research coordinators, and other departmental leads to support outreach and recruitment.
Great, thanks, Kyle. And I just want to pause here for a moment to say, I know we don't have all of them here on this webinar, but how grateful we are to these 3 school districts who were willing to partner with us. These were the first 3, these were like our top 3 choices. These are the 3 school districts we initially reached out to. Chesapeake Union is down in Lawrence County, as Doug shared. Cleveland Heights University Heights is in Cuyahoga County, and Painesville City School District is in Lake County. So, as Kyle said, we looked at these different characteristics of these districts, and it took effort from them at a very busy time of the year, at the beginning of the school year, to cooperate with this research study. So we are just very grateful to them and all the effort they put in, both the families as well as the administrators. And I think next we'll turn it to Sophia to go through some of the analysis that we did.
Thanks, Rachel. So our data collection was mostly through interviews. We completed 12 virtual and phone interviews with parents and caregivers. We also got insight from program administrators. We talked to one from each school district. And we asked questions about their experiences, what they liked about the program, any suggestions that they had for the future. And once we gathered that information, we organized it into codes, and then we used those codes to complete a thematic analysis. And from that analysis, we found direct quotes, different response patterns, and key insights that we ultimately included in that final report. We coupled our findings from the analysis that we did that Kyle touched on about the program numbers, implementation, administration. We kind of combined that information along with our interview findings, and we used those to create our final recommendations that ultimately reflected what we learned through this process. And next, I'll get into a breakdown of who we spoke to. Our sample was mostly women between the ages of 30 and 39, and all respondents spoke English as their primary language. We had 2 participants identified as mixed race, 3 identified as Black or African American, and 7 identified as white. When it comes to the income breakdown, 8 out of 12 households had employment income. And of those 8 households, 4 had income at the 100% of the federal poverty line, 2 had income at the 130% line, and 2 had at the 200% line. The households interviewed in the study included 30 children who received summer EBT benefits in summer 2024, ranging from the ages of 7 and 16. This also included 19 elementary students, 8 middle school students, and 3 high schoolers. And overall, while the interview sample in this study is a little too small to be considered representative, it does reflect some of the most common profiles of eligible households in Ohio. So that's our sample, and I'll pass it back to Rachel to introduce the parent panel.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And again, thank you for all the analysis you did. The coding work, the transcribing work, it's a lot of work to really pull these insights out. So thank you for taking the lead on that. And now I'm so excited to introduce our parent panel. So I see you all on camera, and I'm going to also share this slide so that for those who aren't able to see your videos just yet, I can introduce each of you. So Monique is from the Cleveland Heights University Heights School District. She is a parent and grandparent, and we're appreciative of her bringing that perspective to this study. Danielle is a parent in the Painesville City School District with 2 children, and Bill is a parent in the Chesapeake Union School District and is also a paramedic and a firefighter. And so really, representing the breadth of Ohio in these 3 panelists that we asked. Of course, we're not asking them to speak on behalf of the other people we interviewed, but just to share their own story, their own experiences with this program. So I'm grateful to each of you for being here. All right, so I am going to ask a couple of questions to the panel, and we'll give them each a chance to respond, and then we have kind of summarized some of the things we heard from across the spectrum of parents that we talked to. So they might not, again, we wanted to make sure we shared our key findings. They might not be represented from these 3 parents, so we'll share that after we go through each question. All right, Danielle, Monique, Bill, you ready to go?
Sure.
Awesome. Terrific. Thanks. All right. So let's start with how did you learn about the new Sunbucks program in 2024? And Bill, how about I start with you?
We received a letter in the mail saying that, we qualified for this, and we'd never heard anything about it, but that's how were notified, and we learned about the program.
Terrific. And Danielle, how about you? How did you learn about it?
I learned about the Sunbox program in 2024, first on social media, specifically a post on Facebook. And I guess Facebook is the only type of social media I use, so saw it there.
Terrific. And how about you, Monique?
Okay, I'm sorry. I have received an email through the Cleveland Heights University High School District informing us of it, and I was eager and excited to see if I had qualified for it, and I did. So I'm just excited to to be a part of this.
Wonderful, thank you. And that really does reflect the breadth of what we heard from parents, other parents. So we heard about, got a letter in the mail. I heard it on social media. I heard about it from my district. And we know that people generally told us that they trust their school district or JFS, more than pretty much any other sources. So knowing that people were hearing from those places is really important. And I think in all of your cases, you didn't have to individually apply for the benefit, right? You just got notified that your child was eligible to receive it. Terrific. All right, so let's go to the next question. What did you like about the Sunbucks program in 2024? And how about Monique, this time we start with you.
I like the program because usually I go to food banks every month because we run out of food. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity for my family to be able to get the extra funds to prepare more healthy meals. Because I'm a two-time cancer survivor, so I'm just trying to. Everything has to be healthy. So I appreciate that a lot.
That's really congratulations on that, and thank you for sharing that. And I'd say for each of for Danielle and Bill as well, if there's anything you'd like to introduce about yourself that I inadvertently skipped over on your intro slide, please you can start with that, and then you can get to answering this question. So Danielle, I'll go to next to you if you want to share just a little bit about yourself and then what you liked about the program.
Okay. My name is Danielle Carpino. I am 35 years old, a single mother, and I live in Painesville, Ohio. I have two children in the Painesville City Local District. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I also have an 11-year-old son. My daughter is in the 8th grade and attends an alternative school housed within Lake Erie College called Pathways. It's an extension of Heritage Middle School in Painesville. My daughter has multiple diagnoses and is affected by some behavior issues as well, and this is why she was placed in that program. My son is a typical 5th grade student at Chestnut Elementary. Um, the PCELS district includes one high school, one middle school, and 3 elementary schools. 26.3% of the people in the district are below the poverty line, which is more than double the rate in Lake County and about double the rate in Ohio. Just wanted to add that. We're a small district with many struggling families, but I believe that they carry out their mission statement every day to create a positive learning environment and support the academic and social emotional growth of each student. And that's a little bit about me and my family.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, tell us more about what you liked about the program.
I will. I appreciated the extra food allowance from the Sunbucks program. My children eat lunch at school, mostly breakfast and lunch daily at the school. The extra allowance helped with ways to buy bulk food and put away extra food in a deep freezer and in the pantry that we would not normally have allowance for. I also liked that it loaded directly to the card and it was all around an easy process for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And Bill, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and then what you liked about the program?
I'm Bill Sawyers. I'm 43 years old. I have two children in the Chesapeake Union District, one in elementary school and one in middle school. Um, Yeah, I've been a paramedic for going on 16 years. I've been a firefighter for going on 20 years. Um, what I really liked about the program is the ease of use. Everything was loaded to the card. You didn't have to, there was no red tape to go through per se. Um, and it helped out, with giving my children more food for, we don't necessarily use it throughout the summer. We use it for when they go back to school for some of their lunches and snacks like that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Bill. And Monique, I'm going to come back to you and give you another chance since I inadvertently skipped over you. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about you and the kids in your life?
Yes, thank you. I raising my three grandkids, and I have my son. I have two of them are in the middle school and two in elementary, and they're 8, 10, and in the middle school 11 and 14. So I just wanted to share that. I forgot about my kids. And the Cleveland Heights University Heights School District. The two middle schoolers go to Monticello, and the other two go to Oxford Elementary.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. And you are raising a lot of kids, so good for you for keeping it all together. That
Yeah,
takes really hard work.
yeah.
All right, so just to kind of round out everything we heard on this, so in addition to what you heard from the parents here, we heard the timing of the benefits was another thing that was really well appreciated, meaning that they arrived in the summer. It's not as common knowledge if you don't live in other states, but that did not happen in every state. In a lot of states, the benefits got delayed and they didn't get delivered until later into the fall when school was already back. And in some states, they did not opt to participate in this program at all. So families in some states didn't get access to this benefit. So we were happy, and parents told us they were happy that the benefit did arrive in the summer when the kids were out of school. As you already heard, ease of enrollment was a theme that we heard. The program flexibility, so the fact that the program runs on the same rails as the EBT system to be able to use, as Bill mentioned, for different needs for different families, different types of shopping patterns. And that it was available for more than just folks who are enrolled in SNAP. So, Bill, I don't know if you want to touch on that anymore, but I remember that this reached working families at up to a higher income scale than just those who traditionally qualify for SNAP. So, if anyone else wants to add on to any of these things you liked about the program that you didn't already mention, please feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like I said, I'm a paramedic, volunteer firefighter. My wife is a preschool teacher, so we don't even know how we qualified for the program, other than that it reaches further than your normal SNAP benefits, and we're very grateful for that. Um, Again, we've mentioned about the food during the summer for kids, and a lot of that is a problem. We worry about people in our own local district, and with this, we don't have to do that. And I'm very thankful that it does go out to the working families.
Thank you for sharing that. Anything you wanted to add, Monique?
No, I'm in agreement. I've been disabled since haven't worked since 2020, so I just appreciate my family even being considered, because they always say your income is too high, but when I went online to see if I qualified, it said since I had Medicaid, I was already on the list, so that took a lot of anxiety away from me. Like, okay, whoo, we're gonna get some extra help, so just grateful.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning the Medicaid connection. It's something, another thing that doesn't happen in every state is that Medicaid direct certification is the term of art. So Ohio Department of Education and Workforce put in work for a couple of years actually ahead of time to bring that to Ohio. And so hopefully they hear the shout out here when they listen to this later. But I do think it helped to make sure that it reached more families than it would have otherwise reached. So that's another great feature of the program. Thanks for mentioning it. All right, let's go to our next question. We're doing very well on time, so we've got plenty of time to hear from the panelists. So the next question is about how your family spent your Sunbucks benefit. We heard a lot of great things from the families we talked to, but in your experience, what did allow your family to get over the summer that you wouldn't have otherwise had? And I'm going to start this time with Danielle.
My family spent the EBT Sunbucks on mostly bulk food sale items. We have a budget and we try to work within that budget. A large portion was spent on discount meat items purchased from a store called Tony O's in North Kingsville. I bought cases of meat in bulk and separated them and froze them individually into meal portions. And we are still using those meals today from the summer, and they're still good. They're still frozen. Um, it helped put a lot more food on the table that we would normally not have.
That's amazing. And I actually know that store in North Kingsville. So I'm gonna remember to go get some chicken there the next time I'm out that way. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Monique, I'll go to you next. How did your family spend Sunbucks?
Well, similar to Danielle's story, we were able to get more fresh produce, milk, eggs, because me and my grandkids, we and my son, we like to cook. I have them help me prepare the meals. So just having the opportunity to have the extra, the meat, the vegetables, to prepare foods to be, to eat healthy, it's great.
Wonderful, thanks. And how about you, Bill?
Well, so my oldest daughter has a very sensitive stomach. So we use it to, bulk food for her to be able to take for her lunches and snacks throughout the day as well.
That's wonderful. Yeah, the individual, preferences and needs and dietary restrictions. We all have different things in our life that we need to accommodate. So the flexibility of the program for that is really important. And I'll just highlight on the screen here a few of the sort of themes that we found in our thematic analysis, that some of which you already heard. So parents bought fruits, vegetables, snack, bulk foods. The most commonly reported food purchased with summer EBT benefits from the parents we talked to was fresh fruit. And that makes sense, right? It's the summertime. Kids love fresh fruit. They will eat fresh fruit. I have 3 of them. I know, I can tell you, blueberries and strawberries get eaten in my house, but they are expensive. So it was really interesting to hear that perspective reflected from parents. We also heard that parents shopped at a variety of retailers and farmers markets as well as bulk food stores. So that was also really interesting to hear the breadth of kind of the Ohio retail economy that benefited from this program. So, we heard Aldi, we heard Sam's Club, we heard Giant Eagle, we heard the whole range of the grocery stores, as well as more small local stores like Tony O's that Danielle mentioned. So yes, this is a benefit for families, but it's also a benefit for those retailers. And then as you heard, we heard a good amount about food that aligned with children's special dietary needs. We heard from several parents. You heard Sophia mentioned there were about 30 children total that were represented in these interviews. And quite a few of them had special needs of one sort or another, right? So having that flexibility for parents was really important. All right, panel, you're doing amazing. I think we have just a couple more questions, so we'll keep going if you're still feeling good. All right, so the next question is really kind of looking forward. So I think we're all proud and happy on the whole with what happened in 2024, but of course it was the first year of program implementation, and we always want to look for ways to make a program stronger. So I'd love to hear if you could each share what improvements you would like to see in the program in 2025 and beyond. And how about Bill? I start with you this time.
So one thing, definitely keep the Sunbucks name. Drop the summer EBT and just call it Sunbucks. With me growing up, the way I grew up, we were well below the poverty level. And I know with EBT or, at that time it was food stamps. It kind of put a stigma on people, and especially with my, the way I think, I guess, it put a stigma on me. So I think Sunbucks kind of releases that stigma a little bit. So the first thing would be to drop the summer EBT and just call it Sunbucks, and raise the benefit up to the $60 a month that was, originally plant.
Thank you for sharing that personal experience and that advice. I think that was reflected in a lot of what we heard from parents. So thank you. Let's go to Monique next.
Oh, no. Um, like I reiterated before, this program is a blessing to my family and a blessing to others. I want the program to keep, like he said, just keep the name, and just keep, just keep food on our table so we can, so we won't be so stressed out like this. Like I said, the extra money goes a long way because the prices is going high, the milk is high, everything is high. So just having that extra help in our communities, it's great. And and then during the summertime, they're home and they're always hungry. So just having the extra um, money to help feed them is great.
Thank you. How about you, Danielle? What would you share about ways the program could improve?
I personally didn't have any issues with the summer EBT program or Sunbucks, but I do know some people in the community were not sure how the program worked or never received cards. So if I had to choose an improvement, it may be the way the program was communicated and maybe the execution of the card sending, but for other people, not for myself.
Well, thank you. Yes, we know that I'm going to mention two things that are different or something that's different about the districts that you're in case it's not known to the rest of the participants. So both the Cleveland Heights University Heights School District as well as the Painesville City School District in 2024 were considered community eligibility schools. I'm using air quotes if you can't see me, but that's just a term of art that means as Doug mentioned at the beginning, it means serving all of the children meals during the school year and not collecting individual applications. So that means there are enough families that qualify for SNAP or Medicaid or have other signals of low enough income that it makes more sense for the school district to just serve everybody, right? It gets away from that stigma. It's more efficient for the school, and they can provide, in some cases, just better quality food when they use that model. So that's called community eligibility. And in this study, we intentionally picked two districts that had community eligibility. And at the time, the Chesapeake Union School District did not have community eligibility. And thankfully, you guys have it for this year, right, Doug? I see you nodding your head. So last summer, the folks in Chesapeake Union District got only those kids who had filled out a free and reduced price meal application, like a paper application, were able to automatically get connected to Sunbucks, unless there was some other way of identifying them, like SNAP or Medicaid. But in Danielle and Monique's district, there was some confusion. They're like, nobody in our school district fills out a free school meal application because it's a universal school environment. So that was one of those places we heard commonly where confusion did happen about parents not knowing, do I need to apply? How do I apply? So that's something that we do hope we know that the state is aware of, and we hope that they continue to work on in the future. So thanks, Danielle, for giving me a prompt to remember to explain how that works. And, community eligibility is a great thing. We would love to see us get to, as many schools as possible running that model. We just need to also make sure families then know how to access Summer EBT if they don't automatically, if they don't already get SNAP or Medicaid benefits. So with that, I'll just put a few of the other findings. These were the themes that we found. So as I just mentioned, more communication from schools about eligibility and how to apply. As we said at the beginning, schools are a trusted source of information. So we know parents read the stuff that their schools send home, the emails they send for the most part. At least I try to keep up with mine as best I can. Sometimes it's too much, and sometimes multiple communication is necessary. So we heard several parents say hearing from their school frequently, maybe at the beginning of the school year, when you get back from Christmas, holiday break, before the end of the school year, a couple times to let you know either this is going to be an automatic benefit for you, or hey, you need to fill out an actual summer meals, an actual Sunbucks application in order to get it this summer. So that was something of an improvement we'd like to see. Another thing we heard a little bit of, and Danielle kind of alluded to this, is just better information on card delivery and making the card activation process a little bit easier. I think Monique, you maybe had some experience with getting the card activation, can be a little confusing. We know the slips that were sent with it were often, in English only, so some people didn't understand them or just they were confusing. So I think there's a little bit of friction there that needs to be resolved in the future that we heard from parents. And then there's a couple of small things, like just some confusion we heard around posting of benefits happening after the card arrives. So there was some mismatch in timing. So there was, some calls that folks made either to their school or to the state to try to get that resolved. So hopefully some of the kinks in the program like that are able to be worked out, in 2025 and beyond, since this was the first year of implementation. And then lastly, the thing we heard loud and clear across the board, I think from every parent we talked to, was providing a higher benefit amount per child. Is, as Bill said so well, it's important. The price of eggs, the price of milk, the price of fresh food that you want to buy is all very expensive. And so and knowing that this is such a good investment in our future, in our children, that adding to that benefit over time is going to be something we continue to advocate for. And we also heard some parents, Danielle mentioned that a deep freezer is allowing you to extend the life of this purchase, which is amazing. We heard other parents say, we'd really just like to extend the time we have to spend the benefit. So parents only had 4 months to spend the benefit. And that's from the time it was issued to them. So it could have taken some time for the card to arrive, for them to know how to use it, to activate the card, all of those things. So that is something that Congress set, that 4-month time limit came from Congress. So that's something we need to change at the federal level. But it is important to mention that that was a limitation that some parents experienced because they were trying to stretch and stretch and stretch as best they could. And so if we gave parents a little bit more time to stretch it, that would help them make the most of the benefit. So hopefully that feels comprehensive, but Danielle, Monique, Bill, anything else you would add as I was talking of things you thought of other improvements you'd like to highlight today?
No, those were great. Those are really great improvements. Yes.
Okay, good. I'm glad to know they resonate. All right, well, I think we are at our last question for our panel. So I'd love to just go around to each of you and ask you to share any final thoughts about the importance of the Sunbucks program to you and your community. And how about Danielle? Can we start with you this time?
Sure. I guess the Summer EBT Sunbucks program is and was an important allowance for members of my community and myself included. It was essential in getting through the summer and helped tremendously well into the next year for my family. We are thankful and appreciative for the Sunbucks allowance, how simple it was for us to receive, and overall how much it helped my family, and it still is. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bill, let's go to you next.
It is a very important program that needs to continue in this state. Again, everything on the cost of everything going on the rise. This helps offset that cost throughout the summer, especially for those working families and families on Medicare and Medicaid, or that receive the SNAP benefits. That's all I've got.
Well, thank you so much. We've learned so much from talking with you and just the experience of your part of Ohio, because I don't live down in there. And so to hear how this benefit is helping all across the state is really valuable.
Hey, Rachel, I was reading through the questions that popped up on the chat, and I would like to answer one real quick, if that's okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we can go to that right now. Which one would you like to answer?
It's question 2 about was there a sense of community and did it
Sure.
help relieve the stigma? Yeah, I would say it did. Because you had people, like I said, that wouldn't necessarily qualify for SNAP, that were eligible. Being a paramedic, I'm in and out of the hospitals. I know a lot of nurses. A lot of the nurses in the hospitals live over here in Ohio, being so close to Huntington. And their children are eligible for it. So it did help, decrease that stigma a bit.
That's really good to hear. Thanks for tackling that one. Monique, what are some final thoughts you'd like to share? And then we'll go to a few of the other questions that we have.
Um, basically, just keep the program coming every summer. And then, like I said before, it just takes a lot of stress off of me being a single parent and trying to, make sure the kids are well taken care of. So I just think your program for being there for my family and also the community in this time of need.
Thank you so much. Each one of you really inspires me, and I'm so grateful that I got to know you through this project. And I look forward to keeping in touch and hearing how the kids are doing growing up. We have a lot of kids the same ages and going through the same phases of life. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for that. All right, so let's go to a couple of the questions that we have gotten before I share a few final findings from the research study. So one question that came in is one person asked, was the benefit enough to cover your kids' nutritional needs for the summer? And did it cover the loss of the meals for the summer? So how close did it get to closing that gap, if any of you would like to answer that question?
Well, I mean, I do have a budget that I have, and it's like when it gets like the third week of the month is when my funds is low. That's when I go to a couple food banks to try to help supplement it. So it's doesn't matter how much a budget you have, it's everything is high. So you have to balance that out versus gas in your car. You gotta, it's just, trying to figure it out. That's all. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Would anyone else like to jump in on that question?
I would. I don't think it completely closed the gap, but I believe that it did help a lot at the
Mhm.
during the time that it was given. Towards the
Mhm.
end of the summer is when I received mine, which is not, I'm not complaining about that. Um, but it did help a lot. It did, I don't think it completely closed the gap, but it did help.
Mhm. Mhm.
Terrific, thank you. Yeah, and that's kind of what, when we heard Bill say that already, right? We would really like to see that benefit go up so that it can get closer to closing the gap. We know that, but families are very creative and doing a lot of trade-offs, as Monique mentioned. So we think I don't think we're going to get to a point where the Summer EBT Sunbucks program completely covers the cost of food for kids, because it's like, as you said, it's a lot, right? I mean, how much we spend on groceries just every week, much less, certainly not it's $40 a month. But it's about all those resources being added together to help families make ends meet. So thanks for those responses, and thank you for whoever put in that question. And we have another question that I want to go to, and if each of you can answer this quickly or take if more detail if you want to provide it. Did any of you participate, or I'll say, or know others who participate in traditional summer food programs? So places where your kid can go to get a meal during the summertime, in addition to participating in the Sunbucks program.
Yes, our school district, Cleveland Heights, University Heights, and also the libraries, the Cleveland Heights Library, they do offer food, summer lunches and stuff for the children during the summer.
Great. Go ahead, Danielle.
My children go to, there's a food truck that the school owns, and it drives around from place to place, and it provides lunches in the summer for all of the children under 18 and under, and in Painesville City. And we participated in that a lot. So that does help too.
Mhm.
That's really cool. Bill, anything you would add?
No, 'cause we don't participate or know anybody that participates in it in anything like that. So the food truck idea is a great idea. I know Doug's listening, so maybe we can take that into consideration.
I've been taking good notes. That's a great idea.
Yeah, you and I can work together on that, Doug.
Mhm.
Good, Bill.
I love that so much. Look, Danielle, you just inspired a new idea in another part of the state. How cool would that be? And maybe we'll have to do another follow-up webinar to see if that vision comes to life.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you are in our audience, feel free to add additional questions to the Q&A while I go through just a few other findings that I want to make sure that we mention. And then we will close out. So thank you to our panelists. Please stay on with us in case we get more questions, but a little virtual round of applause for you for a really excellent panel and excellent conversation that I know people will learn a lot from. So thank you for being here. All right, so just a few other things I wanted you to know are in the research paper. And so if you're looking to talk more about the impact that this program had. So we already mentioned the 1.2 million children that were reached by this program, which is incredible. That translated into $118 million of federal funding that went into our local grocery stores, farmers markets, and other SNAP retails in all 88 counties. So there is, not an inch of Ohio that did not see some benefit from this program. And if you think about what that does for our economy, all the jobs that in those grocery stores, the farmers that benefit from that, there's a whole great food ecosystem that benefits when we bring this kind of nutrition assistance to our state. So, bravo to the DeWine administration for opting into this program and making it happen because it's helped all of us. Also, really interesting thing we learned from this research is that over 82% of the benefits had been redeemed at local grocery stores in the first 3 months of those payments going out, which is really amazing if you think about parents. Some parents didn't know it was coming, right? They didn't have to apply. They might have taken some time to figure out how to use the card, all the things we already talked about. So the fact that more than 4/5 of that money went into the economy like immediately also just talks about how effective it is as an economic impact for our state. And my favorite statistic, as I've mentioned before, is that the vast majority, literally 98% of eligible children received the benefit without having to fill out a separate application. So that is awesome. I will say in the future, I would be okay with that stat going down if it means more families learn how to apply for summer EBT who need it, who were eligible but just didn't get it this past summer. So we're going to keep an eye on this data in future years so that we can continue to see the automatic nature of it for all those who qualify, but also make sure we're spreading the word for those who do need to separately apply. All right, so just a couple of final thoughts because we are in a moment where budget decisions are getting made in our state for the next 2 years in our state. So if some of you live in Columbus and are maybe closer to the state house budget conversations. Bill, I know you know your representatives. I know that you pay attention to these things, but big decisions are being made in our state about what investments we're going to make in our community going forward. And so we have a couple of kind of things we wanted to highlight as in the big picture. So number one is that it was clear from our research that the schools that operate community eligibility, as we talk about, probably do need some additional support and resources to communicate with parents about summer EBT and how to submit an application. Like we mentioned, there was some confusion around that, and we heard schools also say, for instance, if we don't have material translated into more languages, then it's hard, then it doesn't make sense for us to send it out to our family. Danielle, I know in your school district, there's a high Spanish speaking population, for instance. And so we heard from the district, they generally don't send out communications that come from the state unless it's in English and Spanish, because otherwise they get too many calls from parents who are confused about what it said. So more resources and support for schools to help communicate with a variety of materials, translated and otherwise, was a big takeaway. And we want to make sure that decision makers in Columbus hear that so that the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, as well as the school districts that they support, get what they need to make this program a success. And then another kind of big foundational piece is that we want to make sure the departments that pulled this off, the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services and Department of Education and Workforce, that they're adequately funded in this biennium budget. So overall, they need funding for lots of things that they do, but specifically, we want to make sure that the very small administrative cost that they have for this is maintained so that those federal benefits, which is the real value of the money, is able to make its way into communities in Ohio in 2025, just like it did in 2024. But it's just a congratulations to those folks, to all of us, to Doug, to our districts, and to those to those leaders for standing up this first new permanent nutrition program for children in really 50 years. And they did it in a very short timeline, right? This program, I think their plan, as you saw in the timeline, it got approved in the kind of late spring of 2024, and families got benefits by end of July, early August. So that is pretty remarkable. And just wanted to use this moment to pause and celebrate that success for all of us. So I will take, we have about 5 minutes more for questions in case we have any more that folks want to ask. And I see the little celebration emojis and whatnot. So thanks for folks who are virtually celebrating with us. Let me see if we have any other questions to tackle.
Rachel,
All right,
if I could add a comment, I would just like
please
to
do.
I would just like to thank everybody to be part of this. And I think, we're a very rural community, but we have some of the same issues and problems of inner city issues that we can all work together and collaborate together for solutions. I think this is the path that, our state should take. It's a good example of people working together for a common goal of helping kids and families for, in this instance, we're talking about meals and the cost of meals, and we know it's high for everybody. And just having a program that is open to the diversities of everybody in the state of Ohio, I think is complimentary to Governor DeWine. And hopefully we can do enough work in the next few weeks and months to continue this great program and expand on it. I know I got some great ideas about how expanding it here and getting the word out, because obviously, saying as the superintendent of the school district, we want to help not only our kids but our community. And many of you mentioned our food banks. I know our local food bank. When I talked to the gentleman that heads that up, we're feeding over, or he is feeding over 100 families a week, and more families each week coming for assistance. So thanks to everybody for taking time out to do this project. And Rachel, thank you and your team for diving into it so well.
Thank you for those words, Doug, and for calling out our food bank partners. I know some of them are on this webinar from across the state, and they do a lot to feed families and also to get the word out about programs like this. So grateful for their partnership in the community. Would any of our panelists like to make any final comments before we close out the webinar? All right, great. Well, thank you to all of you. Thank you for those who joined. If you didn't see in the chat, we have all of the links to where this recording is going to be, so you can share it with others. We would encourage that. It's also on the Community Solutions YouTube channel. You can sign up for the 5 Things newsletter, where this webinar was featured, and also where we'll continue to talk about the Sunbucks program. Look, Bill, I'm learning. I'm going to start right now is the moment I'm going to start calling it Sunbucks only.
Hi,
And
Rachel.
yes.
We do have one more question.
Oh, terrific. Okay, let's take it before we close out.
So the question is, what are ways that we can share the success of this program, and what state leaders should we connect to understand how important this program is and why it should be sustained? So how can we be advocates for this program?
That is such a great question, and I will take the first stab at it, but I welcome Doug or any of our panelists to also add to it. I think that it is important for those of us who understand the school meal environment, just the experience of being a family with children that is looking for ways to supplement our food budgets and feed our kids healthy. I think we have to celebrate these programs that are working. And I think, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of misunderstanding of how government works, just in general, right? And so I think the more that we can kind of shine a spotlight on a specific program that's doing good for ourselves, for our neighbors, for our school. I live in the Mayfield City School District, and we've got Mayfield Pride. We are gonna do, we know who our neighbors are there, and we want to lift up the programs that are just local to me. And this is one of those programs. So I think if you are on this webinar and you have this information at your fingertips, please share one factoid. Share the most common purchase was fresh fruit. Share a link to the report, and contact your legislators if you would like to, if that's something that you're able to do in the role that you're in, to say this is an awesome program, let's continue to invest in it. And I would say that's true at the state level, and even at the federal level, we need to be shining a light on important programs like this. Doug, anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's obviously it's being able to tell your story to people who are making the decisions in Columbus and beyond. I think that here locally and with Chesapeake and with Lawrence County, just being able to go to Columbus and testify and and not only me as a superintendent, but have people in the real life, have kids tell the story. And the legislators don't know unless we tell them. They have a busy life, just like we all do. They live in a whole different environment than what we do. How they get things done is remarkable to me. But if they know our story and it's valid, and we're not telling the story and complaining about it, but wanting to be helpful, I think that's the key. I know for me, I sit here a lot, and people will come in with issues, and we're working on it all the time. But if we just can't sit and argue about what it is. Let's work it out and have a solution, a positive solution that everybody can live with. And I think that's where we're at with the quality of food, and the price of food, and how are our families doing it when school's not in session. I think that's huge. But I think those folks that are online, and if we can reach out to our legislators and let them know, and hopefully we know somebody locally in your own district or region that you can talk to honestly and openly about it, and share that this is a positive program that has to be funded and should be funded with a higher amount of dollars. So I think that was a great question.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. And it's worth noting that, this has been a bipartisan program from the very beginning, from the time that it was a demonstration project to the time that it became pandemic EBT to the time that it is now Sunbucks. And so this isn't a controversial program to get behind. We just have to, as Doug said, we have to tell the story. We have to shine.
I would say this too. It's not a right or left problem. It's right or wrong problem, issue. And those folks in Columbus, they know that. I mean, that they support this, whether they're Republican or Democrat. It's right or wrong, not right or left.
I think that's a great note to end on. So thank you all again. Thank you, panelists, and just have a wonderful weekend.
And thank you.